The atmosphere around the club feels a little different this week, and not just because Christmas is almost upon us. There is that strange calm that only comes when the schedule briefly eases up, giving everyone a moment to breathe, reflect, and quietly reset. Celtic find themselves in one of those rare pauses in the season, with several days separating the hard-fought victory over Aberdeen and the upcoming trip to Livingston. It is unusual, especially at this time of year, but it could turn out to be valuable. With fewer matches to prepare for, the focus shifts fully to the training ground at Lennoxtown, where the players can put in the detailed work that often gets sacrificed when fixtures come thick and fast. At the same time, there is also space for a bit of balance, with players spending some time with their families, something that should never be underestimated during such an intense and demanding season. This small window gives the coaching staff a chance to properly drill ideas into the squad, to reinforce principles, and to iron out details that can decide matches at this level. There is a sense that the manager welcomes these moments because his approach is very much about clarity and precision rather than constant noise. He has spoken openly about how he analyzes matches, sitting down soon after the final whistle to re-watch every minute, pausing repeatedly, sometimes taking hours to go through a single game. That tells you a lot about his mindset. He is not someone who skims over performances or relies on gut feeling alone. He wants evidence, patterns, and concrete examples that can be shown directly to the players. Instead of long speeches, he prefers visuals, situations frozen on a screen, moments that clearly explain what worked and what did not. That philosophy has been evident since his arrival, and it also explains why he remains calm when results do not immediately follow. From his perspective, change is never instant, especially when players are adapting to new methods after a period of relative stability. He has acknowledged that the squad were winning before he arrived, then suddenly faced defeats, new demands, and a different way of thinking about the game. In his own words, that kind of disruption is normal. What matters is how the team responds, how honest the feedback is, and whether lessons are truly learned rather than just spoken about. He has stressed that his role is to highlight both the positives and the areas that need improvement without sugarcoating anything. Looking back at recent matches, particularly the loss that came down to a few chaotic minutes, he has pointed out that the problem was not just those moments themselves, but what led up to them. Losing focus on a set piece, switching off briefly, failing to give absolutely everything in a decisive phase of play. These are the details he obsesses over because at the highest level, they separate control from chaos. The encouraging part is that he sounds confident the players are starting to understand this, starting to see the bigger picture rather than isolating mistakes as bad luck or isolated errors. That confidence might not always align with how supporters feel in the moment, especially when performances dip or results do not match expectations. At times, his positivity has even frustrated parts of the fan base because supporters naturally judge progress by what they see on the pitch each weekend. But there were clear signs in the recent victory that something is clicking. The energy, the intent, the reaction from the stands all suggested a growing connection between the team and the supporters. When fans respond positively to the way the side plays, it reinforces belief on both sides, creating a feedback loop that can drive momentum. Now, attention turns to Livingston, a match that comes with its own pressures. Celtic are expected to win, not just narrowly, but convincingly, and expectations are part of the fabric of this club. It is about setting a tone, about showing consistency rather than flashes of promise. A strong performance away from home would go a long way towards building confidence ahead of even bigger challenges on the horizon. Momentum in football is fragile, but when it starts to build, it can transform a season very quickly. Beyond the men's first team, there has also been significant movement elsewhere in the club that cannot be ignored. The women's side has seen a change at the top, with the previous manager moving on to a new role back in her homeland. Her time at the club included historic achievements, including a league title and qualification for Europe, where the team tested themselves against some of the biggest names on the continent. Those nights were milestones, even if domestic consistency was sometimes harder to maintain. Transition was always likely at some point, and now a new manager arrives with a proven track record within Scottish football, someone who knows exactly what it takes to win trophies in this league. There is hope that this appointment signals renewed ambition and proper backing, because recent seasons have seen key players depart without clear replacements, leaving the squad stretched. A fresh start with clear leadership and renewed focus could be exactly what the women's team need to push forward again and reassert themselves at the top. The talent is there, but stability and direction are just as important. Elsewhere, supporters have also been digesting details about upcoming cup fixtures, particularly ticket allocations that confirm a strong travelling support once again. Celtic fans are renowned for showing up in numbers, turning away grounds into seas of green and white, and the upcoming cup tie is shaping up to be another example of that. With thousands set to make the journey, the message is clear that there can be no excuses on the pitch. Big support brings big responsibility, and the players will be expected to match that commitment with a professional, focused performance. At the same time, television scheduling continues to shape the rhythm of the season. Several upcoming fixtures have been selected for broadcast, bringing a mix of night games and Sunday kickoffs. There has been a noticeable shift away from early lunchtime starts, with more matches pushed to later slots, something that may suit travelling supporters a little better. While it changes routines and sometimes complicates planning, it is part of the modern game, and teams must adapt just as supporters do. What matters most is how Celtic perform within those changing conditions, maintaining standards regardless of kickoff time or external factors. All of this forms the backdrop to a period that could quietly define the direction of the season. With time on the training ground, renewed belief from a positive performance, changes elsewhere in the club, and important fixtures ahead, there is a sense that things are slowly aligning. It is not about grand statements or dramatic promises, but about steady progress, clear ideas, and consistent execution week after week, starting with the next challenge that awaits. As this short break continues, there is also a wider conversation happening around the squad and how this period can be used to sharpen minds as much as legs. And in seasons past, Celtic have often been accused of running on momentum alone, riding waves of confidence until something disrupts the flow. What feels different now is the emphasis on understanding why performances fluctuate, not just reacting emotionally to results. That comes back to preparation, repetition, and players fully buying into what is being asked of them, time on the training pitch, without the constant pressure of recovery and travel, allows messages to land more clearly and habits to be reinforced in a calmer environment. You can sense that the manager values these quieter weeks because they allow him to slow everything down. Football at this level is often frantic, with emotions swinging wildly from match to match, but his approach is rooted in control. He wants players to recognize situations instinctively to make the right decisions without panic, and that only comes from detailed work behind the scenes, showing clips, freezing moments, explaining positioning and movement visually. All of that helps turn theory into something tangible over time that should reduce the moments where Celtic look vulnerable or lose their shape under pressure. One of the key talking points remains consistency across the full match. Too often this season, there have been strong spells followed by lapses in concentration, whether after scoring, conceding, or restarting play. These are the margins that frustrate supporters because they feel avoidable. The coaching staff clearly see them the same way, not as random events, but as patterns that can be addressed. That is why there is such a focus on set pieces, defensive organization, and reactions immediately after key moments. Switching off for even a few seconds can undo 90 minutes of hard work, and at the top end of the league, opponents are ruthless in punishing that. There is also an understanding that confidence plays a huge role in how these moments unfold. Players who believe in the system and trust their teammates are far more likely to stay switched on and make the correct choices. That belief seemed to grow during the last outing, where the energy from the stands fed directly into the performance. When Celtic Park is fully engaged, it lifts everyone, and that connection between team and support is something the club have always relied upon. Recreating that feeling regularly, both home and away, is crucial if momentum is to build. The upcoming match provides an opportunity to show that lessons are being learned. Away fixtures can be tricky, especially against sides who set up to frustrate and disrupt rhythm, but that is where patience and structure become vital. Breaking teams down requires discipline, not forcing passes or shots out of desperation. It is about trusting the process, moving the ball quickly, stretching the pitch, and waiting for the right moment to strike. A composed performance with control from the first minute to the last would send a strong message that progress is real, not just talked about. Beyond the immediate fixtures, there is also a broader sense of transition across the club. Changes in management roles, particularly within the women's setup, highlight the ongoing evolution of Celtic as a whole. Success brings expectation, and expectation demands constant improvement. The women's side have already written important chapters in the club's history, but sustaining that success requires investment, stability, and clear leadership. Bringing in someone with recent experience of winning domestically signals intent, and it will be fascinating to see how that impacts performances and squad morale over the coming months. Supporters are understandably hopeful that this fresh start will address some of the issues that have crept in, particularly around squad depth and continuity. Losing influential players without adequate replacement inevitably affects results no matter the level. With a new voice in charge, there is a chance to reset standards, reassert identity, and push forward with renewed confidence. Celtic's name carries weight, and that should be reflected in ambition across every team wearing the badge. Attention has also turned to upcoming cup ties, with confirmation of ticket arrangements sparking excitement among the travelling support. These matches often take on a special atmosphere, especially when large numbers make the journey together. The expectation is always that the team will respond to that backing with professionalism and intensity. Cup competitions leave no room for complacency, and history has shown that even slight lapses can have lasting consequences. That is why preparation, mentality, and focus are just as important as quality on the ball. Television selections continue to influence planning and routines, with kickoff times shifting more frequently towards later slots. While it can be inconvenient, it also reflects the broader appeal of the league and the interest generated by competitive races at the top. Celtic will feature prominently, as they always do, and adapting to these schedules is simply part of modern football. What matters is maintaining performance levels regardless of timing, weather, or external noise. All of these elements combine to create a sense that the season is approaching a defining phase. There is still plenty of football to be played, but foundations are being laid now that could determine how the coming months unfold. Training groundwork, tactical clarity, belief within the squad, and alignment between players and supporters all feed into that bigger picture. It is not about perfection overnight, but about steady improvement, cutting out repeat mistakes and turning positive signs into consistent outcomes on the pitch. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. The whispers doing the rounds in Glasgow this week have a familiar ring to them, the kind that start quietly and suddenly feel far too loud to ignore. Celtic, never shy of ambition, are being linked with a move that few saw coming. CALLUM Hudson-ODOI, currently plying his trade with Nottingham Forest, is said to be on the Hoops' radar. For a support that thrives on daring signings and statements of intent, the idea alone is enough to set tongues wagging. Hudson-Odoi's name still carries weight across British football, once heralded as one of the brightest attacking talents of his generation. His pace, close control, and confidence in 1v1 situations made him a standout at a young age. At Forest, he has shown flashes of that quality, even if consistency has sometimes proved elusive. That, perhaps, is where the Celtic angle becomes intriguing. Parkhead has a habit of reviving careers, offering players a platform where belief, noise, and expectation collide. Sources close to the situation suggest the interest is at an exploratory stage rather than anything concrete, but the logic is not hard to grasp. Celtic's recruitment strategy has often mixed emerging prospects with players eager to rediscover their spark. Hudson-Odoi fits that mold neatly. A move north of the border could offer him regular football European exposure and a fan base that embraces flair and bravery on the ball. From Celtic's perspective, the signing would be a statement that they are looking beyond the obvious markets. Bringing in a player with Premier League pedigree, still with years ahead of him, would underline a desire to compete not just domestically, but on a broader stage. Financially, questions remain about wages and valuation, yet there is a sense that creative solutions are being explored behind the scenes. For now, it remains firmly in the realm of rumor. No official word, no confirmation, just a story gathering momentum with every retelling. But in a city where football stories have a habit of becoming reality, the thought of CALLUM Hudson-Odoi in green and white is one that refuses to fade. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.